Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
6 a.m. and all is well.
Yay.
And yeah, video number 2 today. So, again, there's so much to keep you guys up with. Do come, and if you are not a Patreon, check out our Patreon. All the videos go up on Patreon. And again, there are exclusives that go up on Patreon and YouTube membership as well, going into some real deep dives. And we have a whole series that we've started on, but we're going to definitely go to another level with that, as we are going to another level with Ascension. Oh, yes, Ascension is very, very real. I remember in the 80s, that's when it was hitting me in this talk of harmonic convergence and, all the cycles of the Yugas. I became aware of this after high school, early adulthood, mid-80s. And, I was wondering, is this just fluff? Something feels real about this. And, is it too good to be true that we could literally be ascending into a new age that would have the potential to be much more like heaven on earth?
It can happen, and it can be a very good process, or it can be something very, very difficult to go through, because when we move up in vibration, we move up in frequency, those things that are still lower in frequency no longer serve you, and they feel like they need to detach. So just like a old sticky band-aid coming off, it can be painful sometimes.
And so much has to do with emotions. And again, emotions, as Cindy loves to say, energy in motion.
Energy in motion. And there is a book out there, Feelings Buried Alive Never Die. They stay literally in your fascia. So you can work them out through massage, and then energy work can actually get them to kind of release themselves from the body and the organs. So you might go through, if you have energy work done, you could go through a big purge if you have a lot of stuck emotion.
Yes, absolutely. And when you study traditional Chinese medicine, medical Qigong, you become aware of these what's called Luo channels, which are spots that actually literally come off of main channels, and they're kind of repositories for energy we can't process at this time.
Yeah, and I just want to say that the energy is such a powerful force, and it moves up the spine. As it moves up the spine, it can actually trigger your fight or flight response, because the body's like, hey, whoa, what is that? And then guess what? All of your brain is trying to make sense of this. Your brain is saying, okay, why are we in fight or flight? You start figuring out old traumas, or traumas that are still stuck in the body. It's really amazing.
It really, really is. And when you look at this, you see there's a very, very bright golden light in the heart. And the heart is key. Again, we were talking most recently about the heart chakra. And so you have 3 main chakras above the heart, and you have 3 below. It's the intersection. It's where so much of the activity happens. It is also a more powerful energy center that can be measured as being more powerful than, say, up in the brain. Your energetic field is in a state of change and expansion. You have begun to vibrate at higher levels as your consciousness moves more in alignment with the higher self. This is the thing. We tend to lose ourselves at certain times in life. I remember feeling good about myself as a little kid, even though I was, picked on as a very little kid. I was good with myself. And then in high school, I kind of moved into a certain crowd and became lost and felt like I lost myself, lost contact with who I am, and regained it in my young adulthood, so to speak, as I got back into a spiritual practice. I always have been, spiritually inclined, but you get caught up with your friends, you get caught up with drama in relationships. How many times has somebody lost themselves in a relationship? That happens all the time. It's really common. But this is the thing we need to work towards, is integration with the higher self. The more of the higher self you could bring into embodiment, the more powerful a creative force you're going to be. The less likely you're going to be swayed by all the temptations of the ego. And truly, the more you're going to stay in alignment with your own plans for this life. Because I think, again, so much of the time people will say, well, whatever God has planned for me, that's what it is. And nothing can be farther from reality if we take that laissez-faire approach, that hands-off approach, and just let ourselves be guided by society. That's insanity. That is insanity. No. Get in contact with your higher self. That requires going inside. That requires getting to know yourself if you forgot yourself. And that might sound crazy, but this is true. We tend to take on the identity that society will create for us. Okay, you are a painter, or you're a service technician working at an auto dealership, whatever it is. You're a service tech, you're a Republican, this. You have to, no. Who am I in that? Who is the higher self? Because that's the part of you that really we need to pay attention to. What ascension is doing, the ascension process, is taking us from the point in time where in the Kali Yuga, we kind of lose all touch with who we really are. And we go through this amnesia. And now we're just starting to wake up from the amnesia and start to realize who we are again as a whole, as society. Each individual is, of course, unique. Some people, don't really lose sight of the higher self much of their lives. Other people totally lose it and never come back, never get back to that, and live a life in which they're living the mask that society is giving us. The opportunity here, having left the Kali Yuga, and we're putting our toes into a new reality, is that everything is changing, and it brings so much more possibility into our actual manifesting range, where we can become truly so much more than what we could have been in that Kali Yuga. We're talking to one beautiful family member who is very, very inspirational. Now, she is in her mid-80s, but yet she is somebody that's got youthful enthusiasm. And the reality is, as we were sharing this week, if you're 84, 85, and we're going into a Bronze Age, the reality is you don't know how much more sand is in that hourglass. It may not even be halfway gone yet. And that might sound crazy. Nobody's going to live 160 years, 170 years. Well, people have. They have. And when we go back to those mentions in the Bible of patriarchs living literally 900 years, 969 years, we go back to the Sumerian kings lists, and granted some of those were different species than Homo sapiens, and they have reigns of thousands of years or tens of thousands of years. The reality is everything about our existence has been purposefully blocked off and shortened in the Kali Yuga. So the reality is, if we were living the healthiest lives we really could have, and the system wasn't doing everything it could to push against that, I do think the average lifespan, just even now in our times, would be at least double, if not triple. I truly do think that is the case. So, you have a lot to go. It doesn't even matter how old you are. There is so much potential out there now that we are heading into a new time frame. And literally, the ether itself is changing. So with everything that's going on, the most important thing is ascending and working on that ascension path.
Mm-hmm. Ascension symptoms, oh my gosh, they can be so scary. Anywhere from a racing heart, shortness of breath, surges of certain kinds of energy, those electrical feelings, some noises in the mind. It can be very, very strange and very unnerving. One thing that I do see that's very, very common is there's people have something wrong with their bodies. They know there's something wrong, and they go to the doctor, and the doctor runs all the tests. They do the scans. They do this. They do that. And it just keeps coming back that, no, everything is fine. Everything is fine, Mrs. Jones, Mr. Jones. There is nothing wrong. Our reports say that you are perfectly healthy. And they continue to go back because they know there's something wrong. Well, this is part of ascension. And you're not going to find too many doctors out there who understand ascension symptoms. Maybe some of them have heard of it, but there's very few things you can do to actually treat it. But the one most important thing you can do is going within and figuring out all of your traumas, because it will bring up old traumas, a lot of old traumas. It has to. And then it can bring about a certain dissolving of the ego. I don't like the name ego death. We need our egos to be here in the 3D. It's very, very important. But you do go through this dissolving where you start asking, who am I now? Because I have completely changed. I am a totally different person. And what is real? Because now you're able to see into other dimensions, and you see information behind information behind information. So we go through a lot when we go through these ascension symptoms or Kundalini awakening. It can be very, very frightening. Some people think they're going crazy. You really want to stay grounded. And I can't say enough about the subtle practices of energy work and sound healing and different modalities to healing. Yoga is a big one. All of these things help this energy move through the body and without such horrible jolts and difficulties.
Yes, and what we've gotten from the guides too is that the very ether is changing. If the very ether is changing, then all the elements are changing. This means that your body is literally changing. This is part of the reality. The earth, the matrix that we are walking and experiencing these human lives in, is changing. So when you look again at this, it has at the 5-pointed star at the top, spirit. I would say I prefer truly to view this as ether, because ultimately consciousness is kind of beyond this. It's not even bound to the manifest universe. So, if we had ether at the top and then air and fire emanating and earth and water below that, that feels a little bit more accurate to me. And again, each person has their own individual take, and there's nothing wrong with going with whatever you feel and you view. So again, we're each unique fractals of Source. And the way to Source is not through any dogma. It's simply going through the self and going within. The entire universe resides within your consciousness. This is part of that knowing that comes about when we experience true gnosis of the reality that consciousness comes first. So our entire matrix, natural matrix, is changing. It's changing. Of course our bodies are changing. And the needs of the bodies, which, modern medicine, the Western medical system, allopathic medicine, again, unfortunately hasn't taken into account the emotions behind us and dis-ease. Again, disease, dis-ease. A lack of harmony, a lack of balance, a lack of smoothing out of all the rough edges, so to speak. Again, this is a multi-pronged process that we're looking at here. So what we want to do is stay in a state of balance and harmony. And for many of us, we might have been out of balance and harmony for the majority of our lives. Again, it's coming to that inner stillness. It's developing daily practices to bring you back to that point. The more you can do that, the more you can start to totally change your life into one in which you're coming into harmony with the higher self, and you are processing. We have to process. Again, when you look at the great wheel, here you see the Kali Yuga, thankfully, is the smallest. And yeah, I would disagree. I think that we are today over on this side right now, barely, but a little bit. Just a little bit outside of the Kali Yuga going into Treta. And then we have Dwapara and we have Satya. Thankfully, the Golden Age is the longest. Time itself is cyclical. It's an illusion of sorts, but when we're in it, it feels real. But yet it does feel pliable because, again, it's all about our consciousness. This is looking at the Astro and Vedic and Mayan calendars. So it's interesting. Again, I find it just so telling that when you look at the Mayan calendar and when did the past age begin, it's within a few years of the Vedic. They're literally only a few years off, which is so small a time frame when we're talking 5,000 years. Oh man, that really shows something to me because here we are on almost exact polar opposite sides of the world, and they knew they had it pretty accurate. Both cultures. So what we're doing with ascension, now that we're on the ascending path, we are going to become more energetic and less dense. Now, yes, we want a lot of people to become less dense in this world, but we could just work on ourselves and, again, lead the horses to water, so to speak. They have to drink and understand the bigger picture going on. But you are also not just clearing your blockages, not just clearing your emotional issues and your traumas, but you're helping to clear ancestral lines. You're also literally helping to clear starseed lineage as well.
Mm-hmm. It's quite a process, and it really truly rewires the whole body, and it definitely changes chemicals and hormones change in the body. And I think that's another reason why if you take this to a doctor, they're going to find a lot of difficulty in figuring out and finding out what's wrong. So it does require one to usually change your diet. A lot of times you can no longer eat the same foods. Something you may have tolerated a year ago might make you break out in a rash now and have really severe side effects. So the body definitely goes through some amazing changes, and it's almost like when you purge and get all the yuckiness out of your body emotionally and all the bad foods, and you detox, it has this anti-aging effect. So it is kind of miraculous, the metamorphosis we go through. Think of a butterfly in a cocoon, and that poor butterfly, it totally has to liquefy before it's rebuilt. It's not an easy process, but man, it's a rewarding one.
It sure is. So we were talking about how ticks carry this disease that will make some people not want to eat red meat, for instance. And there is exactly the type of thing in which the system and what we see going on in the world is mimicking what a lot of people are having come naturally. I think there's going to be a tendency to go away from heavier, denser foods. I think you will see people eating lighter and lighter and less. We are going to, this is completely on an individual basis, and I want to state that clearly. And again, we're not medical professionals. We haven't been trained in the Western Rockefeller medicine. We are just sharing with our own direct experiences, consultations with hundreds, if not thousands of people across the world, and what we've seen, and also the information we've gotten from our guides. So what you have going on is we are going to, because we're on the ascension phase, we are going to move from heavier, denser to lighter, energetic. It's just that simple. It doesn't happen in a blink of an eye. And again, not all processes will be completely finished in this particular incarnation for all of us. It's an ongoing thing and literally involves many incarnations over many, many lifetimes. However, what will the tendency be? Again, we're going to be, I think most people that are on the ascension path are going to find that on the whole, they're going to be needing less food. So when you look at what else is going on in the world with the manufactured food shortages and all these type of things going on. Again, it is for loosh. We understand that it is for profit, obviously. But at the same time, the reality is, I think we would have more people eating less. And even if it's only, 10% less, you only need to take in 10% less calories than you did before for your body to function optimally. That will add up. So what we have is a system knowing the tendencies, and they know what happens because they have been through 3 full ascension cycles. The system has. So, they've run this script, they've run their plays multiple times, and they have AI to predict probability outcomes. So they know that's going to happen naturally. So, of course, we have all the chaos going on in the food supply on purpose, in my mind. Again, this is just my mind. This is just my feelings and impressions. We can only speak for ourselves. And we're doing this clearly just for entertainment value. Absolutely. So, we would have the tendency to eat less and to eat lighter. What did we see when we were at Mount Shasta? And we did have an interaction with people that live in Telos, which again is 5D. It's underneath Mount Shasta. These beings are some of the beings that we would take as people from Mu and Lemuria, and they are living in a 5D situation inside Mount Shasta. What do they eat? Again, when you're talking 5th density, we are talking energy bodies. We are not talking heavy bodies like we have right here. Now, when you're in full 5D consciousness and you're interacting with other beings of 5D consciousness, there's going to be the appearance of solidity because it's about resonant frequencies and where you're vibrating at. Again, the tuning on the dial and changing from one music channel to another. So, as one goes out and you find another channel and you zero in, it becomes clearer and clearer and more solid. And yet, that the bodies in 5D, they certainly don't require the heavy dense 3D foods to keep going. No, they just basically resign and reside and nourish themselves through prana, through the life force that's around us. Solar prana, stellar prana, earth prana. Again, it's the life force. And many people are taking in and will find that they're taking in more life force in proportion to actual heavy foods. And one of our dear family members said, am I crazy? Because I got the message from my guides that I'm taking in about 20% prana now to support my body and 80% solid foods. And we got, no, you're absolutely right. You're hearing things clearly.
Mm-hmm. Definitely we go through changes. I think the body tells you because we're being given synthetic foods right now, and the body does not tolerate, after it goes through this metamorphosis, it does not tolerate synthetic foods. You do have to move to more organic, clean foods to help the body go through this process. So keep in mind, whatever you eat, that is becoming a vibrational signature in your energy field. So if it's synthetic, well, guess what? That's not going to be good for your vibration. We have to look to good, clean, organic food. And sometimes Mike and I, we definitely eat less if we can't get the organic. I mean, we do the best we can, absolutely, at every step. But if we can't get the organic, we will do something different.
Yeah, and we are noticing right now that Cindy and I are both eating far less. Now, yes, I just went through surgery, so I'm going to have changes going on. But I think it's part of the process anyway. And so, when the family member is saying, I think I'm taking in 20% of my energy through prana and 80% through food and water, etc. Yeah, this is where we are. And that person is pretty advanced. So, again, it's not that we're going to all become breatharians in this life, because it's not like we're going to, ascend that fast. No. But it's a process, and things are changing. So again, I think people will find that they're not going to tolerate the fake foods, whether that's Gil Bates burgers or what have you, Fruit Loops, Fruity Pebbles, all these horrible things with artificial dyes. Again, we see progress. We see some dyes being banned. We see mercury's no longer going to be in some of the ouchies. And there's so many things that are positive that we do see, and yet there's so much more work to go. But I do think that as you clean up and detox yourself off of these nasty substances that are lowering your frequency, you'll find that you become more clear-headed. You're going to become lighter. You're going to feel more positive. You're going to be more uplifted. You're going to have just a higher, happier vibe.
And, keep in mind, when we're going through this process, energy work can absolutely help people through it. If you keep going to the DR and the DR keeps saying, well, there's nothing wrong, well, it's energy, it's emotions, it's energy in motion. We have to learn how to move that out of our body. We have to learn to diffuse these energies that are stuck in the fascia. And we can do it. We can absolutely do it. With enough know-how and understanding of the self, you can move through this.
Yes. So you want to upgrade your DNA. I like this. Love more. Yeah. Breathe deep. Practice gratitude. Yes, absolutely. Oh, I couldn't agree more. Again, this is why we do the mantras, because they were given to us by beings outside of the Kali Yuga. They're using language that does go back pre-Kali Yuga, and they're connecting us to beings that are mostly 5th, 6th density and above. So when you start to do these mantras, you're pulling in frequencies of love, of light, of ascension, and beings that are already up on 5th and 6th density. So they're helping us to do what we have to do to purge and process. So yeah, and breathing is so important. Again, mind, body, breath practice should be the main practice in my mind, and everything else is secondary. Yes, it is important to get cardiovascular exercise, some sort of resistance exercise to maintain bone density and muscle form and function. Yet when you get down to it, we are spiritual beings. When you do that mind, body, breath practice, it has benefits that are certainly physical, but also beyond the physical.
You are able to reach other densities much easier when you kind of change the way you do things.
Yes, practice love, practice patience, practice tolerance, practice forgiveness, and again, center yourself in the higher frequencies. Recognize your body today is not the body you had 5, 10, 20 years ago. In fact, it's changing more rapidly than ever. The old self and the self to come, they're not the same. And this is part of a long-term process.
Indeed.
As always, guys, source bless and namaste.
Namaste.